Imagine being stuck in traffic on a daily basis, watching precious minutes of your life slip away from you. Now consider this scenario multiplied across millions of commuters nationwide. This is one consequence of our poorly planned road infrastructure in the United States. Almost everybody uses the roads. According to Statistica Global's consumer survey, 76% of American commuters use their own car to move between home and work. I think everybody can unfortunately relate when I talk about Mopac being backed up or I-35 being stopped from Marsden to San Marcos. I think everybody is an expert in slow traffic. American infrastructure is largely non-navigable without a car, and Americans' reliance on cars is expensive and inefficient. America's reliance on cars leads to inefficient design and capacity constraints, safety hazards, and increased accidents, along with economic and environmental impacts. Now let's talk about some potential solutions for the issues caused by poor road infrastructure and planning in America. Outdated design principles have resulted in inefficient use of land, bottlenecks, and insufficient road capacity to accommodate the volume of vehicles. Take, for example, parking lot spaces. Imagine your local Target, Walmart, or maybe H-E-B has a giant parking lot right in front of the store. Oftentimes, the square footage used by both is the same. Now, there's been a new H-E-B built recently on Lake Austin Boulevard in West Austin. It features a multi-layer underground parking garage. The street level is actually the top floor of the parking garage, and the store is located on what would be the second floor usually. Along with that, there's, I think, three layers of parking garage storage that cars can drive into, which is a much more efficient use than a giant parking lot, just a one-dimensional plane or a two-dimensional plane. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, over half of vehicle trips are less than 3 miles. Here's the source, in a much more digestible format. This investing in infrastructure that supports shorter trips, such as walking and cycling infrastructure. Take, for example, Amsterdam. Amsterdam has a much more robust infrastructure built for walking and cycling, which makes sense when, almost half of the trips are 0 to 3 miles, which is an easily walkable or bikeable distance. Another solution would be enhancing public transportation options. Improving and expanding public transportation networks, especially for short trips, is a great alternative to a personal vehicle. In most of America, the increase in frequency and coverage of buses because trams and light rail systems don't exist. Now let's talk about intersections. Poorly designed road infrastructure contributes to a higher risk of accidents and jeopardize the safety of motorists and pedestrians. One example of this is the reliance on right turn on red at intersections. While you may think turning right on red often is nice and saves you time from having to wait at the pesky light, oftentimes drivers are more concerned with cars coming from their left than people crossing in front of them or on the right. From Street Blog USA, permitting right turn on reds increases pedestrian crashes by 60% and bike crashes by 100%. According to the Safety Impact of Right Turn on Red report to Congress from the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration, those increased right turn on red crashes with pedestrians and cyclists usually involve injury, up to 84% of the time. Now let's look at this image. Imagine you're living in the apartments here, and you want to walk to the Walmart, just diagonally across the road. Let's say you walk out near the pool down here. What's your path? There's no sidewalks going up and down the road. There's a grassy median in between parking lots. So I guess we'll decide we walk through the parking lot, cross this grassy median, walk through this parking lot. And then what is there at the intersection? No sidewalks along any of these roads. Nothing. It looks like there is traffic signals down there, but I just can't imagine being incentivized to walk from your apartment to the Walmart, which is less than a 5-minute walk, when this is what it looks like around you. All the inefficient use of parking lot spaces for the small stores. Just compare the parking lot sizes to the store sizes. So your path would be somewhat from the parking lot, across the grass, through a parking lot, maybe across the road if you're lucky, if you don't get hit by a car, across the road again, through some more parking lots, through a giant parking lot, and then into the store. This is just not very friendly to pedestrians, and it doesn't incentivize people walking or cycling places. Instead, the people here would hop in their car, drive down the road, take a turn, and pull into the parking lot. And about the same time it would take for them to walk in, sitting through all this traffic at the intersection. but it's much worse for the environment and unnecessary. It's making Americans have the burden of having to have a car to travel around. Now let's talk about the economic and environmental implications. The economic and environmental implications of poorly planned infrastructure is significant, affecting productivity and sustainability. This leads to wasted time and a loss of productivity. Tons of time is spent in traffic, over an hour a day for the average American, which is almost 400 hours in a year. Now, I want you to think for a minute. If you put 400 hours into a skill, what could you accomplish with it? 400 hours, that's the amount of time that the average American sits waiting in traffic each year. This also leads to economic losses for businesses, as an employee that is annoyed and fed up with their long commute won't do as good of a work as one in a better state of mind. And you can't forget about the increased fuel consumption and carbon emissions that are caused by the waiting in traffic. As vehicles spend time idling in traffic, they use fuel, obviously. Not to mention how much more fuel it takes to accelerate a car that is stopped versus the amount of fuel that it takes to keep a car moving at constant speed. Cars are heavy, and the amount of force needed to accelerate them is proportional to their large mass. As a result, there are higher carbon emissions and worsened air quality, contributing to climate change and public health concerns. In addition to this incentivizes people to not walk or bike places. Think about the air if it was polluted. Would you want to be out walking in there or in your nice little personal space bubble in your car? Obviously, people would rather be in their car if it's gross outside. Now, those are many of the ways in which American infrastructure is lacking. In summary, poor planning and the American fixation on cars has ironically led to worse transportation options and longer wait time in traffic. Many European cities do this much better, so there's no reason that American cities can't expand their public transportation or make more walkable and bikeable cities that are safer for everyone.